Hi everyone, welcome to Words with Wista. This is my not so personal diary where I talk pop culture, politics, internet chaos, money messes, layoffs, and whatever is living rent free in my head. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's serious. Either way, you're hearing my thoughts out loud. If you're part of the Wista gang, part of the Wista crew, part of the Wista posse, or you just keep coming back because you think I'm talking shit about you, welcome back. I missed you. And if you are a new listener, well, in the words of Pop Smoke, rest in peace of Pop Smoke, welcome to the party. Okay, you guys, we got a lot to talk about. Like a lot of things to talk about. It's not even funny. I know I took a little time off, but sometimes that's what happens when you're looking for a new job. Sometimes life just happens. And one thing I always make sure to do is when life happens for a quick second, I come back and I give you guys a long episode. Because I don't know, for some reason, people keep telling me, I love the 1 hour, 30 minutes. I'm like, what? I try to keep these shows at least like 50 minutes. Because talking to myself for an hour and 30 minutes, I got to take breaks. I'm going to be honest, I got to take breaks. I can't wait till I bring guests on this show. I really can't. I cannot wait. I'm so excited soon. Okay. There has been so much that's happened within the last episode to the point where I don't even think we're going to have an order. Some topics will intertwine with the other, so bear with me, you guys. Now, life update. Whew, girl. Where can I start with the life update? I feel like it's weird because layoffs are still happening. And this is actually a topic I actually do have in the docket. So I guess we could just add that all in together. We know that currently right now, in July, we just found out when it came to the jobs report that 23,000 jobs were diminished. So that means there were 23,000 jobs lost, right? Although the unemployment rate went down by 0.1%, that doesn't mean shit. People are still losing their jobs and trying to figure things out. I'm seeing TikToks about people saying, yeah, their unemployment's running out. I'm seeing certain situations. I have some friends who just hit me up and they let me know they just got laid off. I always tell people this: when you get laid off, look up everything that has to do with whatever state you live in. If you live in like a blue state, like a New York and California, or like a Illinois, you're blessed because there's plenty of ways you can still bring some funding into you. And then I'm going to tell you this, just because with this job market, it's taking some people a little bit longer. Look for a job that you can attain, like a bridge job, just so you're not sitting at home slumping around, because the bills still got to get paid. If you have the access to have somebody help you out, do it. Also, too, is I'm going to say this too. I know a lot of people like to delve into the whole content creation, which we will be talking about as well. But I'm always going to say, think of a business idea, think of something that's entrepreneurial, because it seems like right now, with a good chunk of us who have been going through the aspect of trying to get back into corporate America, it seems that the entrepreneur aspect seems like something or a lane that we must delve into. But one thing I want to say as well too is the fact that, yes, start using AI. I know this conversation. I know someone's like, it's messing with the data. I fully understand it, but I think just like how we've been introduced to new technologies, and I always bring it back to the music industry just because I know a lot about that. Just like with streaming, a lot of artists did not like streaming, and now it's prevalent and it's here. We know what AI is here, but there needs to be regulations to make it ethical, right? I think that's the most important thing, is the ethical use to it. Now, I want to bring this up because this is a topic that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you guys know, but my alma mater, Suffolk University, located in Boston, Massachusetts, has basically said, you know what? Students now can co-major in AI. So for example, if you are studying, I don't know, public relations, or if you're studying business administration, then you can also co-major in AI, because they're seeing that, hey, a lot of these companies are laying off people due to AI efforts. So let's see if we can give students the opportunity to study AI. But it's been weird because a lot of my former classmates, and then also people I went to school with, are like, yeah, we don't support this. This is not good. And the fact that people are getting fired for this. And I think the thing is, when it comes to this, it's like, and I have to be that person, we're still going to have find a way to adjust to it. I know somebody's like, oh, what's that? Like, I do not support the use of AI when it comes to like creative endeavors or anything like that. I feel like AI should be used for like very, 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 very repetitive tasks. Like, for example, if you're a PR account executive and you have an Excel sheet where you're putting all the coverage in your tracker, AI should be the one organizing the tracker, not you. Making sure that's put in. When it comes to writing the press releases or anything else, that should be done by you. Like, I'm so grateful that I went to college and went to grad school before ChatGPT was populated. Because, ooh, if I was a college student right now, girl, Lord, because some of you kids, some of y'all, Gen Z that are in college, I've had conversations with some of you guys, and I'm like, how the heck did you guys get into these schools? I had somebody who was 20 years old tell me, oh, I did not know that women in their 30s get their menstrual cycle. When I tell you it's cooked for this generation, but then again, too, that's just a small selection. That's crazy if you're going to tell me about that and you want to be a doctor. Yes, this person wants to be a doctor, and they said they did not know that women in their 30s get their menstrual cycle. That's the children of the future. That's the future. That's the future politicians, the future doctors, y'all. But still, my alma mater is delving into the aspect of using AI. I won't be surprised when more universities use it, even in the aspect of like law school. But I think the most important thing is, what is the rules and regulations in the law that we can start implementing to make the use of AI ethical? Because with this current administration, they're not using that shit ethically. You know, every single time there's a post, they're putting like random things using AI to create content, and it's just disgusting content that spreads hate. So that's what I got to say about that. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But then again, too, when it comes to like alma maters, you guys know I only claim NYU, okay? So I know somebody from Suffolk University like, oh, but you don't be shouting out your bachelor's. No, I'm in NYU, girl. Thank you. New York University. Thank you. I don't know anything about Suffolk University in Boston. Only some of the people there. But the experience I dealt with, I will say, without going to that school, this podcast would have never started. So I have to say that. Without going to that college, this podcast would have never started. The people I've met, it would have never happened. So I'm grateful for it. I've learned a lot of big lessons going to that fucking school. And if you want to find out about that, go listen to older episodes. Since we are talking about like universities and everything, I do want to talk about the creator economy and how a lot of universities are not only implementing the use of AI to become a major, but some universities are now delving into the aspect of having a content creation major, right? Or an influencer major, right? We're hearing right now, especially when it comes to younger Gen Zers or even older Generation Alpha, and they're asked, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Instead of saying doctors, lawyers, nurses, CRNAs, a plumber or anything like that, they're saying they want to be a streamer, they want to be a YouTuber, they want to be a beauty influencer. So what universities are doing now are putting those courses. Arizona State University is the first one to really delve into the aspect of having the major of being an influencer. Now, when I think about this, yes, it has its benefits because, for example, you study business administration, maybe you can minor in influencing because guess what? Influencers are marketers to a certain extent. You guys are marketers, but still that doesn't necessarily follow the traditional aspect or the rules and regulations that comes with marketing, right? Think about that. Now, bringing in that you can be someone who studies business administration and you minor influencing. You could be somebody who studies broadcast journalism, co-major maybe, or even minor in influencing. So it does make sense, but then also too is what happens through these courses? Like, what are these professors teaching students in these courses? And is there a way that they can have a social media like minor or even something like that? Because also too is not everyone's going to be an influencer. I have to be honest. Not everyone's going to be an influencer. Can there be an opportunity for people to be a social media manager? Because there are a lot of people who try to go the influencing route, but then they realize, you know what, maybe going behind the scenes. Because one thing I can say for sure with some of these corporate brands and everything, being the social media manager, you can make a lot of money from it. You can. And then you can end up starting your own agency or your own PR agency or your own like marketing agency and really help brands market themselves. That's another aspect as well. But it's interesting to see the changes of the job market, but also the creator economy. And what influencing has been around for like, I'd say currently what it's growing from like 15 to 20 years has been so far, right? So we're seeing the changes in how companies are adding rules and regulations because they're seeing so many people are making so much money from it. How can these companies monetize from that, right? We are hearing about YouTube and them changing their monetization rules, or even TikTok, right? They're noticing that a lot of people are putting out YouTube shorts, and YouTube shorts is a way to get a lot of followers. So they're like, okay, so you guys are getting a lot of followers from YouTube shorts. That means that you guys are making it easier for you guys to get monetized to the point where we're going to change the rules. So then everyone who's posting shorts, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to really get into monetization program. But then also you have to bring in the AI slop, right? There are people who typically they're not really making content. They're making AI content and putting it on YouTube, right? For example, I gotta talk to the folks who live around the older generation. My aunt, girl, don't let my aunt find an African movie that's AI, a Haitian movie that's AI, a black movie with AI, anything revolving the black diaspora that got some AI in it. Just know my aunt's watching it. And think about the amount of stories or even those videos and how much money those people are making. But then also the misinformation that AI is providing. I don't know if you pay attention to ChatGPT. In the bottom, it says ChatGPT can make mistakes. So let's say, for example, there's an AI video I had witnessed my mom and my aunt watching, and it was like a doctor giving advice. And I had to tell them, hey, go Google this. Go ask your actual medical professional about this. So I think that makes sense for them to have the rules and regulations and how they're changing monetization. But it's also sad for smaller YouTubers, right? Even for this show, right? We have a YouTube channel for this show. And yeah, the whole new rules and regulations that's about to happen with shorts and everything is going to make it a little bit tougher. But in the end of it, you're going to have to still be consistent. You're still going to have to do certain things. But then also, too, I feel like a lot of people don't realize as well, too, when it comes to social media, yes, you have to cross post. But also, too, a lot of the times, some of the smaller channels are making just as much as the big channels because you have brand deals. You have opportunities to get signed. That's why I always mention to people every single freaking time about that one influencer that had 3 million followers, but she could not sell more than 30 t-shirts. I just want to remind you guys that just because you got some followers don't mean you got motion. Okay, because I know people with 2K followers and got the motion to get you in the rooms with some of these big folks. But in the end of it, it's going to be interesting to see how the creator economy changes as time progresses, as we're seeing the implementation of AI. We're starting to see how companies are being more stingy with how they're pulling out their pockets, which is why I always say when a new app comes out, hop on that, because guess what? Anybody who hopped on YouTube early, they really came in with the money. Anybody who hopped on TikTok after it became Musically, they really got their money off of it. But in the end of it too, when it comes to like influencing, yes, you can get brand deals, but I always say once you get those brand deals, start allocating those funds and start a business. Which is why when we hear about like the influencer Jools, who basically came up with the whole term demure, but then we found out that she kind of stole demure from another influencer, and now she's on GoFundMe begging people so she can get her teeth done. But it's like, girl, you were just on here with RuPaul getting all these brand deals and everything like that, but now you got to fix your teeth. Which is why I always say, hey, when you start making that money, yes, make sure your family's well taken care of and everything, but you do not need to be buying your mom a Porsche Cayenne with your first big check. If you don't give your mom a little Toyota Camry and then start building that wealth so that you can have a high yield saving account, a Roth IRA, because had she done it like that, you would have been able to get your teeth fixed. You would not be on freaking GoFundMe begging. Which makes me also think the fact that there are some influencers I follow who may have like 50K followers or even like 100K followers, and they still got day jobs. They still have day jobs, which is why we always talk about the aspect of making multiple streams of income. Sometimes, yeah, you might have to go get a job, even if you got millions of followers. I know people with 500K followers and they still clock in. Because guess what? They're not getting brand deals. This is why I always say followers don't equal dollars. But with Miss Jools, girl, you literally were all over the freaking place. You were on every red carpet. I get it. You have a social media team because once you get signed with like a Kensington Gray, your manager who gets you bookings has to get a portion. Then you might have an assistant. They get a portion, which is, I'm sorry, but if somebody tells me, oh yeah, I want to be the assistant to an influencer, I'm going to look at you and be like, girl, if you don't go and apply for a freaking job at one of these big corporations like a Google and go do that, because I'm sorry, I just don't believe that anybody aspires to be the assistant to an influencer, because the type of stories we hear about people who are assistants to influencers and the BS they got to deal with, and then also too is it's the stability. At least if you work on a corporation, you getting a steady check. But we've seen influencers who are transparent and they talk about what they've been making monthly. It's highs and lows, depending on the season and also depending on your niche. But still, if you tell me you want to be the assistant to an influencer, you crazy. Now, bringing it back, Jools has expenses. You have the cars, the home, and everything like that, which is why I think sometimes too is a lot of people do a lot of things for social media where they feel like, oh yeah, well, now they have these big brand deals and everything. They need to get the big penthouse sky rise where the ceilings are always up, and they need to be getting the apartment where they pay like what, $15,000 a month in rent. They need to get the car. No, get something modest, get something nice where you can still shoot your content, but still be able to allocate your funds and do something with that so you can further build. So then eventually you can move on to that sky rise apartment. Not me sound like a damn freaking financial advisor, you guys. I sound like pocket watching with JT. I've been watching too many of his videos, which is why I think it's important when it comes to like influencers, go get an accountant, go get a financial advisor that actually cares. Because still to this day, it's like the fact that you basically was given the opportunity to collect these funds and you don't have anything allocated for an emergency like getting your teeth fixed, or even God forbid something happens to your health, that's a problem. Go sell some Chanel bags, bitch. Go sell some of those Louis Vuitton bags. Y'all are always Loewe down, Chanel down, going to Rodeo, going to Ball Harbor, shopping at the shops, spending all this money like freaking Young Miami said, spend that shit. But then when it's really time to spend it on your health or making sure that your car is good, it's a problem. That's when you guys get on TikTok live begging. Make it make sense. And the thing is too, if your followers are actively paying money that they work and earn from their 9 to 5 and you're shaming 9 to 5ers, that's crazy too. But now, I did bring up the aspect of like pocket watching with JT and then also the aspect of investing. Can we talk about InvestFest right now? So we know that Earn Your Leisure is basically one of those platforms where it's two black men who talk about investing, financial literacy, generational wealth and everything. So they have a convention called InvestFest. I just want to mention too is they've been on shows like The Breakfast Club, because I'm a mention because I guess so one of the hosts said that InvestFest is not a black convention. And this is where I think, oh my God, once again, when an influencer or a platform has a majority black audience and you start to get a sprinkle of others into your audience, and then you feel like you're so big where you start to degrade your actual audience. Once again, it will never make sense to me. When I think of Earn Your Leisure, I think of your main target audience is going to be what? Black people. Specifically who? Black people in America. Hello? You guys are going on shows like The Breakfast Club. Who do you think the main target audience of The Breakfast Club is? Although a lot of us don't fuck with The Breakfast Club now. But still, you're going on those platforms. You're partnering with DJ Envy, Charlemagne, prominent figures that have what? A prominent black audience. Girl, I don't have time for this. And it's the fact that the host was like, oh yeah, we're not a black convention. We're just an overall. It's really like, hello, majority of the faces I've seen at InvestFest, because I know there's somebody that I actually know that went. I saw majority of the people that were black. So what is this? And I feel like another thing too is it's crazy how sometimes I've noticed with certain brands or even corporations or companies or just celebrities or people with some sort of like publicity, y'all love to sleep on the black dollar. I feel like y'all love to sleep on the black audience and don't realize the importance of the black dollar, not only when it comes to business, but even when it comes to voting. Even when it comes to like the beauty industry, y'all love to sleep on the black audience and don't realize they're really the ones pushing, propelling, and taking you to that mainstream audience. That I'm putting air quote, that mainstream audience, because really in the end of it, the black community is really what causes all the trends. They're the real trendsetters, specifically black Americans. So, girl, and I know there are some men, but y'all really are putting y'all foot in y'all mouths. And this is why I prefer to watch Pocket Watching with JT, because they had beef with Pocket Watching with JT. And Pocket Watching with JT, if you genuinely want to know about certain situations or like money messes that your faves are going through, watch his videos, because he also mentioned about the young man who was found unalived, who allegedly got caught scamming football players. And it's kind of crazy how he's able to bring that up and also bring like a former football player, Tony the Closer, who also is a former football player, who talks about like financial literacy and generational wealth. And they kind of like discuss the fact that like the ways of how, even though we know that NFL players or even those who are in the league still are able to get scammed by people who may not really be in the league. So you guys go watch that and go watch Pocket Watching with JT. I've learned so much when it comes to just anything going on in the financial space, but specifically when it comes to like black celebrities or how can we build the black wealth. That's what I can say for sure. Wow, I sound so different, you guys. Look at that. Oh my God. Wow. Look how we got through a bunch of these topics already. So I do want to like intertwine a lot of like the business news with politics, just because I did mention the aspect of like the importance of not only black wealth but then also black voting. So let's just overall talk about politics right now. So earlier we talked about the job market and everything, people losing their jobs. Well, I don't know if you guys know, but the Trump administration, I don't know what is up with Trump and his female hires. The women are leaving the Trump administration. They're like, we are fed up and tired. It's either they're getting fired or they're just leaving. I don't know if you guys know Caroline Levitt, who's kind of like the head of comms when it comes to the White House. She's the one doing all the press conferences. Well, she dropped a bombshell. She pulled what executives pull in corporate where, oh yeah, I'm leaving. Good luck. You guys got 2 weeks. You guys can't find a replacement. Good luck to you. She's leaving. Tulsi Gabbard left. Pam Bondi left. Fired. What else? The one with the husband that got caught putting on her leggings and prosthetic titties left. Fired. Not another thing we're finding out as too is we got some of the women in MAGA, they're leaving politics. Nancy Mace left, and now she has a freaking podcast on YouTube with her arms out with her tattoos showing everything off. And then not even that, we're hearing about what's her name, Lauren Boebert, the one with glasses that look like a bootleg Sarah Palin. That one, I guess her career is done because we just found out that her son is allegedly doing some mess revolving someone who's not of age. So guys, everything's getting exposed. But the women are leaving the Trump administration. They're still conservative, but they're slowly trying to dwindle and step away from the administration due to either them moving on or they're going through a crisis. So it's going to be interesting to see who these replacements are when it comes to these aspects. We're already seeing that when it comes to the AG, and a lot of them are getting replaced by men who just are not really even qualified for the job. But hey, we'll see what happens next when it comes to the Trump administration. They're always fucking up something. Now, I just want to move on to something regarding just something I've been noticing, and this has to do with like the NBA but then also the Trump administration. The administration has cut funding for low income trans kids, which is something we've discussed before about like trans children and the funding that they had for them, especially when it comes to the aspect of like mental health, but then also just overall cost of living, but then also just the importance of their representation within the community. But then now we're also seeing the aspect of like the NBA and how some NBA players are actually mocking the trans community. And there's been a lot of conversations about trans women being involved in sports such as the WNBA, which we're seeing a lot of like NBA players trying to mock trans women. And I'm just like, we're going to delve into that eventually in the future. I just need to bring somebody from the trans community to have this conversation with, just because I've been peeping certain things. I don't know, but I feel there's going to be a scandal popping up soon. And the fact that the administration has cut those funding, think about how this is going to affect the future of those children. Because regardless if a child has decided, okay, they've come to the realization that they're trans, let that child live their life. And I know there's somebody listening to this show right now, they're like, oh, what's the this and that. As a supporter and an ally to the LGBTQIAA plus community, I am always going to stand with people living their lives the way they want to live it. And one thing I just want to say, the players that are making fun and mocking the T girlies, I know one of y'all about to get exposed. One of y'all about to get exposed. I could feel it. One of y'all about to get exposed. You mocking the community, but I feel like one of y'all be messing with the T girlies on the low. Because they always say this: whatever you like to mock is something you like to entertain at times. I'm just saying, it's just something my spirit is telling me that. But shout out to my T girlies though. Now let's move on to the primaries and the elections that are coming up, just because we know there are a lot of important things to discuss. And with this election coming up soon, I've noticed a lot of people who had conservative views are now switching and changing their views, because guess what? They're realizing that the Democrats are going to be winning, specifically when it comes to the conversations of socialist progressives, but then also moderates, right? So we notice that a lot of socialists or even progressive Democrats are winning their elections before we have our election in November, right? So we're noticing that there are a lot of folks who are progressives. For example, Abdul El Said in Michigan, he won his nomination. Or even when you think about it in New York with the Dominican lady, I forgot her last name, Chevalier, but that whole scandal, which we discussed, for the fact that she has a French last name, and people were trying to say, oh, well, she's not Dominican. Guys, you guys know I could talk about the whole race relations between Haitians and Dominicans for days as somebody who comes from both sides, but I don't have time for that. But still, let's bring it back to Michigan and also bring it back to the fact that why progressives are just not winning over black Democrats, right? And it's specifically for the fact too, and I'm going to talk about Michigan just because of Abdul El Said and him winning. But I do want to bring the fact that there was I don't know if it was for the position of governor for it to be the Democratic nominee, or if it was for Senate. The black candidate was a black man who is a moderate Democrat, while the progressive candidate was an Asian woman, right? And she got called out for some of the things that she said in the past. Now, guess who won? The black man won, right? So even with that, it's interesting to see how, yes, we are in a streak where we're seeing that a lot of progressive candidates are winning, but then it's also showing the playoff of, okay, let's see how it plays out when it comes to like certain cities, certain states. So a lot of people are paying attention to Michigan, and even where else? There's some other places too. They're paying attention in Denver as well too, because they're seeing, okay, we're doing good when it comes to certain communities, but when it comes to the black community, the black vote, when it comes to the progressives, they're not doing that great. they're not doing that great. They're showing studies that Black Democrats are more moderate than their counterparts, specifically when it comes to the Democratic Party, right? Now, when it comes to Abdul El Said, he won his nominee by a couple votes. And one thing I can say when it comes to him, and when I see him, I'm still like, I don't know about this one. And even with the conversations I've had with Black Democrats in Michigan, as you guys don't know, although I did do PR for Ford, the motor company, yes, the car company Ford, I actually do have a lot of family in Detroit. I have a lot of family in Grand Rapids. And one fun fact, I actually did live in Michigan for like 3 years of my childhood. So you know what? I could represent Michigan too. Okay, I could represent Detroit. Okay, she said she want to go to Motown and see how it is. Let me stop. That's this from the show The Dirty D. But Abdul El Said, during Kamala's run for president, this is something that my personal opinion, this is something that I noticed, where to a certain extent, it felt as if he was persuading people not to vote for Kamala. This is my personal opinion, allegedly. I've noticed that. And you guys can go look at previous videos that he's done with interviews for CNN. And I have to bring this up. I don't know if you guys know, Dearborn has a large Muslim community. And guess what happened when the elections happened, right? Who did majority of those communities voted for when it came to elections? They either did not vote or they went to go vote for the opposing party. So that's why when I see him, I'm like, I don't know about this one, because we still haven't forgotten. But with Abdul El Said, he has to persuade not only Jewish voters, but he also has to persuade Black voters too. And with both of those communities, they still haven't seen anything that he's done that can really secure that vote for him. So a lot of people are afraid about that, but he said he's going to try to work it out. He did it with his speech, but I found it interesting because Kamala did endorse him, but then again, to his politics. Just because you were talking shit about me last week, we're part of the same party. We're trying to get these votes. We're trying to get these wins. I got to support your ass somehow, some way. Even for his competitor who she said she got an Obama cosign. It was kind of weird because you have somebody who was slightly co-signed by Obama, although she really wasn't. But, that's a conversation for another time. And then somebody endorsed by Kamala. It's kind of hard right then and there. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does to attain that Black vote, because you're going to have to start telling people what you're going to do for Black voters, specifically in Michigan. Because I don't want to see you going to Motown. I don't want to see you going to Detroit and you're not talking about how we're going to bring life to Detroit, how we're going to make sure that we preserve the area and bring businesses to a booming location. Like, hello. But then also too is I feel like a lot of people tend to forget the importance of the Black voter. Once again, we saw with these election results, who did Black voters vote for when it came to the election, the presidential election? You saw who they voted for. So stop sleeping on the Black vote. I feel like y'all always sleep on the Black vote, but when it's last minute, y'all need it. Because even when it comes to Zohran Mamdani, he didn't really do that great with the Black voters. He really didn't do that great, specifically when it comes to older Black voters. When it comes to younger Black voters, and studies do show that younger Black voters are giving progressive candidates a chance. But when it comes to the older generation, what are you guys going to do to make sure that the aunties and the uncles will get up and go vote for you? Now let's try to get all this like political news out of the way, just because I just realized I have so many things to talk about. So we'll see what I talk about this week, and then next week for the next episode, I'll probably trickle in a few things. So we all know that currently right now, Taylor Farms is going through a major PR crisis. We know that they're like ready to eat like products such as salads, guacamole, anything involving where the produce is picked, processed, and then cut up to be prepared so you can just put it in your bowl, which is crazy. I'm surprised some of you guys really just take it out the pack and put it in your bowl. I don't care what it is. If it's one of those like ready to eat salads or it says ready to eat, I'm still cleaning the lettuce. I'm still cleaning the lettuce. You are not about to hear from me saying, oh, yeah, you got explosive diarrhea. We're hearing that there are death rates regarding this whole epidemic when it comes to cycloparesis. Oh my God, you guys, when I tell you I had to record myself saying that word because I was like, you guys are not going to catch me slipping. But still, it's kind of interesting to see how that's playing out. And let's see who is part of all things when it comes to health in this administration. RFK. I have not heard that man say anything. We have not heard from that man ever since we heard about everybody getting explosive diarrhea or getting sick from eating vegetables. When he's the same person that's pushing, we have to eat vegetables. We need to get rid of red dye 40 and all that jazz. But it's been crickets on his side. And not only that, too, they just announced that EBT food stamps done. It's done. So that means 4.4 million Americans are out of the funding that they need to bring food into their home, right? So not only are we going through a shitty economy, not only are we going through high gas prices, but now there are people who are going to be suffering through hunger. And think about it. There's a lady in Massachusetts who is doing a protest and is trying to show people how many days people can go without food. And she is protesting for the fact that, hey, the people who are recipients for EBT or even the SNAP program and everything like that, they truly need it. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to play out. And not only that, when it comes to Taylor Farms, they just had reported that a lot of the farms that are linked to Taylor Farms, or even the ones linked to this epidemic when it comes to the lettuce and the produce and everything, guess what? They haven't been inspected by the FDA in the past 7 years. So if you really add it up all together, and the past 7 years, so a good chunk of it was from when Trump was president, a little bit when Biden was president, but then with him being president again. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out because this is on you guys. And the person to blame for all of this is the people who vote for him. The people who voted for him. Honestly, it seems like every single time when this man takes over office, it's either something's going on, people's money is fucked up, or people are fucking dying. So make it make sense. And I know the primaries are coming up, and I just want whoever's listening to this, think about how things have been for you for the past 2 years. Now, I know some people are like, oh, well, it hasn't affected them, but really think about how the last 2 years has been for you and those around you in your community. So that's how I want you to fucking vote, because honestly, with the way things are, a lot of people are getting their freaking wake-up call to the point where we're hearing that brands like Amex is not even giving people unlimited swipes or an unlimited limit. So the people who had like unlimited limits are now getting limits now. So that shows you the state of the economy. If Amex and these credit card companies are putting a halt on certain things, because that means what? Guess what? People are not fucking paying their cards. And now I kind of like want to shift into this like stalking situation that we're seeing in the news. So let's just talk about it right now. Luigi Mangione has pleaded guilty for the death of Brian Thompson, who was the CEO of United Health. And basically he pleaded guilty for stalking, and he admitted that he did the crime for specific reasons, mainly talking about being an advocate for those who have experienced just terrible things regarding health insurance. And we know he has a situation with the back pain. Well, we're going to find out about his sentencing in December of this year to see. They're saying that the judge who is basically ruling over this case, she is not somebody who's lenient. And it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do about this. I remember when they got Luigi, and I remember on this podcast, I said, they're going to make an example out of him. They are going to make an example out of him. Let's be real. I'm not surprised at all. Don't be surprised if he gets life and like no chance of parole. But then again, too, you're talking to somebody who's not really fond of like the legal system and everything like that. So don't even ask me anything about law, because girl, I studied media law, not law, not that type of law. So please, if we could talk about contracts, defamation, and everything else, I could definitely help you out with that. I could be a good entertainment lawyer. But if you're telling me I got to make sure somebody gets freed, oh, don't hire me. And another interesting thing about this case is the fact that like Luigi has the same lawyers as Diddy's team, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how these lawyers take this complex situation and try to shift it so Luigi doesn't get like a crazy sentence. because we saw what they did with Diddy. So Luigi's probably like, I see what you guys did with Diddy. Diddy should have gotten more time, but let's see what we can do about this. But I really do think they're going to make an example out of him, because especially when Pam Bondi was the head AG and everything like that, she was very much heads on to make sure that Luigi was handled without even getting a trial, if you really think about it. And I just want to also flag that he was basically found guilty federally. So that's another serious thing as well too. Now, I also want to mention the aspect of flock cameras. So this is the thing. The stalking epidemic has been growing. Stalking has always been around, but with the advance of technology, AI, and just overall the evolution of the tech industry, it's made it easier for people who want to do disturbing things to go with those disturbing things. We know that flock cameras are mainly used by law enforcement, and there's been a high rate of articles regarding members of law enforcement using flock cameras to stalk people, specifically stalking their ex-partners. There's an article about this one man who used a flock camera to stalk his ex, 700 plus times to find out where she was going and everything. I think it was her ex, but also a girlfriend. Either way, she's probably ex now, because who wants to deal with that? But then in Massachusetts, there was I think she's a former police officer currently now, because she's in trial for it, but she used flock cameras to stalk her ex-girlfriend using her license plate and everything like that. Because with the flock cameras, it pulls up your license plate, it pulls up certain things to find out where was your last location, where were you going. That is freaking scary, because if you think about it, the owner of Flock is basically saying they're going to be implementing certain situations so they can have that all together, so they don't hear cases regarding people using it to stalk. But eventually, and I have to be that person, there's going to be somebody who's going to create the similar technology, either 3D print it or something like that, and use it to stalk people. I will not be surprised. But it's like, not only do we need to regulate AI, but they need to start regulating these flock cameras. They need to find somehow, some way to do this. Okay, if I keep talking about like flock cameras and law enforcement, I'm just gonna go on a whole rant. So let's go and shift on to like immigration and just overall everything having to do with the Haitians in Springfield and the whole TPS situation. So we know that temporary protected status has ended for Haitians, and we've seen a lot of videos of Haitians either in Springfield or in Miami or wherever there's a large Haitian community. People are afraid. People are scared. People are staying in homes. People are losing their jobs. The folks who came here to obviously build a better life for themselves, but also help build the economy, they're not working, right? We're seeing some people getting ankle monitors on their feet, and it's crazy because it's like, wow. So for people to stay in this country specifically under the status is that they have to wear an ankle monitor so people know where they're going. And eventually I feel like those folks who are wearing ankle monitors and staying, they're not getting jobs. They're not working. So they're just sitting here and thinking and contemplating like what's going to happen next. And I personally think the folks that they have with ankle monitors on, like the folks who decide to not go to Canada or go to Haiti or even like go to like a different location to migrate, I feel like what they're going to do is eventually they're going to lock them up. I just feel like it's going to be a situation like that. And I think I've mentioned on this podcast multiple times, and recently on the last episode when it comes to temporary status, the country that's been on temporary status for a long time have been like El Salvador. They're Salvadorians on temporary status and have been here for all this time. And they haven't made anything regarding to it. So they're like, you know what, we're going to start with the black immigrants and then also like the Middle Eastern immigrants as well too. So we're seeing how they're playing out with that. I can mainly talk in the focus of like black immigration. When it comes to just overall seeing how this is playing out, it's like modern day slavery. You got these people in ankle monitors. You're seeing people break down. And it's so sad to see this because it's like, wow. You're looking at somebody who sometimes too, when it comes to like like a lot of people who leave Haiti, a lot of times they're leaving Haiti because guess what? You end up going there. Sometimes you're taken in ransom. And let's say, for example, you don't come from an affluent family. They're having you hold hostage for like what? 5 million USD, even 10 million USD. You're hearing about the things that some of these women and children are going through when they're kidnapped. And then sometimes too is when they get the money and all that, your family member's still gone. Your family member's still gone. So when it's like, okay, do you want to be in an ankle monitor in the United States of America, or do you want to go back to Haiti where, depending on where you live, because there are certain parts of Haiti that's not dangerous, but still, if you are from a certain like tax bracket, you can have security. You can get a bulletproof car. You can get those things. I feel like when I talk about this, I come from the side of Haiti where you are privileged. So a lot of the older episodes you guys hear me talk about, and I've talked about some of the episodes where I've been in the car with my parents, and my parents got like guns with them, making sure everything's okay. Like, you guys can go listen to those episodes. And the funny thing is, even some of those past episodes, there's a lot that I still have when it comes to stories regarding living in Haiti, being a privileged person living in Haiti, hearing the stories about people who have been kidnapped and ransomed, or even in situations like, there's a lot of things, you guys, I would love to tell you guys, but I just am not ready to tell you guys that. I'm gonna have to write a book because there's a lot. And I had a conversation with a friend, and then I mentioned something that I hadn't thought about in years, and I'm like, whoa, I've been holding a couple things that a lot of some of the shit I've been through, you'll probably see it in a freaking movie like Taken. I'm being serious, but we're not going to get too delved into that because I don't know who listens to this, and I'm too connected in the Haitian political world. So let's really back in to just overall when it comes to this whole TPS situation. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I'm wishing the best for just overall those who come here and they're just trying to give themselves a better life and just also help build the economy. They're coming in, they're working these jobs that necessarily we don't want to work, right? For example, Chef Creole, who is basically kind of saying, it is sad that when people go to visit Miami, the first thing they want to say when they want to try Haitian food, they go to Chef Creole. His food is not even that good. I'm sorry. But for him to sit on national TV, specifically like local news in Miami, to say that he voted for Trump and that his business is flopping, which, hey, I'm happy your business is flopping. Yep. And I usually don't wish bad. I'm happy your business is flopping. It's the fact that, and in every sector of any group, there's always that one person that thinks they're better than everybody else. You really sat there and thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna vote for this man. It's gonna help with my business. Did it really help with your business? Because nobody's eating Chef Creole. If somebody told me, oh, what's time I'm going to Miami, I want to have some Haitian food, I'm gonna look at you and look at you crazy if you say you're gonna eat Chef Creole. I've had Chef Creole before. I was like, damn, I wasted my money. I could have eaten some good ass food made by my mom that would actually be seasoned and taste good. But the thing is, what I don't like what he said is, in the interview, he was like, oh, Americans don't want to work for him. No. The thing is, when it comes to Americans, we don't want to work for low funds, because once you got exposed for saying that, people found out how much you were paying these workers. People found out how much you were paying these workers. Even Haitian Americans who were applying for a job to work with you just so they can understand the food and restaurant business, they were saying that allegedly you was paying motherfuckers $9 an hour. Who wants to work $9 an hour to go make some griot, bon peze, and some pickles? You think I'm about to work $9 an hour to go make some zili cola and some sauce pop? Man, I'm much caca. What food led? Like, you know what? Let me shut up. But it's the fact that you thought you were going to pay people $9. And then also too is, let's say for example, they're not Haitian American. Not only are you gonna pay them $9, but then you feel like you're probably like, oh, I gotta teach you how to cook the food. So I feel like he's the type, if he has to teach you how to cook the food, he'll take a cut off of the freaking check. So instead of you getting paid $9, he gonna pay you $5 an hour. Like, no, please, sir, stop it. So that's what you get for exposing that, and you're still using it as like a marketing tactic, because I have talked about in PR before where sometimes bad press is still press, it still brings people to go eat at your place, which yes, there were some people that went to Chef Creole and went to go try the food and they're like, oh, the food is still trash, but that still brought pockets into his money. But now we're hearing that some of his businesses had to shut down. Oh, well, whoop-de-doo, good luck finding something else. I need to go talk to my cousin who's a vice mayor. I need to ask him if he knows this man, because I got a lot to say. I have a lot to say when it comes to that. And another thing too, I need to call out some Haitian Americans, and I'm not talking about like Haitian Americans that were like born in America. You know what? Some of y'all gonna get called out too, but the naturalized Haitians that were born in Haiti and then come to the U.S., become citizens, obviously, and all that jazz. You guys are doing this very disgusting, nasty, disturbing trend on TikTok where you guys are showing your American passports. And one thing for sure is this is the thing that's so disgusting and disturbing. And then the fact that you guys try to blame it on Haitian Americans. And one thing I just want to flag for anybody who's not Haitian, but go on TikTok, you can kind of tell who what like was born in Haiti and came to the US and who was born in the US but have Haitian parents. So there is this filter that I've noticed that Haitians oh my god, y'all love to use that filter so badly where it kind of like bleaches your skin to a certain extent, but not really. Like it just gives like that bleaching effect. You know what I mean? Like it's basically giving you was using some cake soap, you was using some savon lavé, and it's just like your skin look washed out. And a lot of the TikToks that I saw that were some people were showing their passports was a lot of that like washed out, bleached out filter from TikTok. So that's why I'm calling out those people. Still to this day, I am disturbed and disgusted that there are some people from the community that you guys know that as a group within the diaspora or just in general, there has been so much bad PR for us, or for the fact that when it comes to any conversation, even when it comes to conversations within the Caribbean islands, we're always bullied. We're always called this. We're always called that. For one moment, we can get together and stand with each other. This is the first thing you guys go do. And I'm disturbed and disgusted by that. Okay? I'm disturbed and disgusted by that. So disturbed and disgusted. So all I can say is if you're one of those people doing like the passport challenge, you're disgusting. You're disgusting. And I'm disappointed that I have to share an ethnic group with you. Yes, there are certain people when I find out they're Haitian, I'm like, damn, I really got to share an ethnicity with you. Like, damn, I really got to share a race with you, but I got to share an ethnicity with you. Like, damn, caca. Like, what the hell? So all I'm going to say is we'll see the change, and I'll keep you guys updated with this whole situation with TPS. And I'll definitely be having some conversations with some people who were on temporary status and just little updates. But, you know, when it comes to that, you kind of have to like be very weary because it's a very tough time for people. So, yeah, let's move on to another tough time because we do have to talk about Nolan Wells and this investigation and the fact that there are a lot of people using his case to chase clout. Officer Tatum, come over here. Come over here. Built like Big Show with some skinny jeans on and some big ass shoes. You are a tap dancing, big tummy, skinny leg, failed cop, failed NFL draftee who now has a conservative podcast show. And you have been doing interviews with these young boys regarding the death of Nolan Wells, and you're trying to prove to us and try to show us, hey, maybe these boys are innocent. It's not working with me. It's not. And then you try to come around and say, oh, well, Ben Crump's doing this, Ben Crump's doing that, the family's not doing this, the boys are showing me proof. Where is the proof? And one thing about Officer Tatum I've noticed is like the self-hate is real, because I noticed with the black journalists, you've been hostile, you've been coming for Don Lemon, DL Hughley, who's just been embarking within like the political space. But then when it comes to Ms. Teslin Figueroa, beautiful black woman, has her shit together. Yep, when she calls you out, you try to say all these things when she's trying to explain to you she knows the facts. But then you go on Nancy Grace's show and it's a lot of yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. And then I was like, okay, when it comes to this overall, I'm just like, you guys, can we just find out what happened to Nolan? Can we just find out? It's too many fucking interviews, and it's the fact that the young men who are doing these interviews, I don't know what their lawyer is trying to advise them, but then again, Trump's lawyer is their lawyer. And then hearing the fact that a lot of these young men, their families have like certain positions in the community. They're in law enforcement, regardless if they're a judge. Like, for example, Warren, his stepmother is a judge in the community. You have another one whose father is a doctor. So it's like, okay, we're seeing how like folks who are affluent in the area, how are they going to get their kids out of this situation? We're also hearing another story about Nolan was staying behind for a young lady. We're hearing another situation where there was a fight that came through regarding some of the young men there, and it was a fight over this girl named Katie. By the way, Katie looked basic as fuck, but I'm sorry, but still, it is too much going on with this story where can we let the private investigators investigate? And I'm happy that Nolan's family is making sure that they have their own investigators, because what Mississippi law enforcement is doing is not helping at all, which we're not surprised they're not helping at all. But then also hearing that some people from law enforcement have like a connection to those young men. Yeah, please, let's try to get this together. The family is simply trying to figure out what happened to their son. And honestly, the mother has been giving these motherfuckers grace. She has. To a certain extent, she has been giving them grace for the fact that you have people writing crazy things about her. Mind you, she's a medical professional. They were writing crazy things about her on websites like ZocDoc or wherever you can rate a medical professional. And even with the fact that she still and was just trying to figure out what happened, but now they actually had attended the National Association of Black Journalists, the convention with Ben Crump, because they were speaking. And now she brought up some things and gave some information, because those young men were like, yeah, we had Nolan's phone. But that doesn't make sense to me. How do you guys have his phone, but you guys call his mom and say, hey, did Nolan call you? But then y'all got his phone. How the fuck is she supposed to track him if you guys have his phone? Like it's certain thing that's not clocking and it's not making sense. And another thing too is it would be weird for somebody who is like 19 or 20 to just leave their phone alone, because we know that Gen Zers love their phone. So please, what? I just really hope that the family gets their justice and gets the answers that they truly want to know of what happened to their son. And then not only that, there was audio that was leaked revolving that day where Nolan went missing, and someone who works in the field of like audio engineering had like adjusted the noise and everything like that. And there was just a whole discussion of what does everybody hear? So then every single journalist who's been involved in the story had their own audio people fix it all up, and it aligned with what the OG person who fixed it up went with. And then the person who actually found the audio and adjusted it so it can be hearable, they have been getting so many unaliving threats to the point where it's like, you guys, this is freaking crazy. This is freaking crazy. All I can say is just get some justice for this family. They're starting off with an investigation, but still, I have seen too many videos of people who are claiming to be friends of Nolan Wells' family going on platforms, regardless if they're going on platforms with Don Lemon, because Don Lemon did go into a tizzy where he interviewed somebody who claimed to be a family friend of Nolan Wells' family and got called out for it. So I think another lesson too when it comes to this, when it comes to talent bookers, but even those who are in the media space, do some research. Do some research, especially Don Lemon. Don Lemon, you have been in this game for so long to the point where I was kind of disappointed in you when it comes to that. But there have been so many people trying to chase clout from this case to the point where if I don't see you sitting next to Nolan Wells' mother and father, or I don't see you next to Ben Crump, I'm not going to listen to anything you got to say. I'm not. And then when it comes to Officer Tatum, sir, you're just one of those people that is trying to chase clout so you can build your brand as a conservative YouTuber, podcaster. Okay, we get it. Just like how with certain court cases, it kind of like helps propel somebody, but then it dies down. Like, for example, Armand Wiggins with the whole Diddy trial. Yes, it was amazing. It helped him out a lot. But then once that peak happens, what's next? Because eventually it's going to happen. I personally will say this. You look at Candace Owens and what lane she's going in. And sir, I don't think it's going to work out for you just because, I don't know. It's something about Officer Tatum that don't sit right with me, but go look at him. I don't know. Something's off about that face. It's something off about that face, but we'll talk about that another time. But still, justice for Nolan Wells. And since I did mention the National Association of Black Journalists, and I did mention like some black journalists, the convention actually did like a whole award ceremony where they call it like the thumbs down award. So they brought up people like Stephen A. Smith, Brandon Carr, or even like some news outlets. They don't necessarily have to be black news outlets, but just news outlets that are just not spreading news that in a whole is even beneficial, or even news where it's like, girl, what are you doing when you guys are talking about it? And I guess it hurt Stephen A. Smith's feelings, and Stephen A. said he's going to expose the convention and everything. But it's like, Stephen, let's be real. Eventually, and it happens to a lot of these like conservative media members, especially with this administration, they're slowly transitioning away from that rhetoric they were speaking. And you've gotten to the point where people don't have respect for you anymore. There's all a point where you can be in the middle ground, but once you start going to a side where you start sounding like a hot mess, and majority of your audience, and I have to say that, Stephen A. Smith, majority of your fan base is black. So I feel like I have to always bring this up. And we brought it up with the Earn Your Leisure talking points. When you have a large majority audience, even if you want to diversify it, you need to really still think about the majority of your audience. Because guess what? They're the ones who really pushed you and propelled you to where you are. So you still need to remind them that they are valued. So for you to go on these platforms and say, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for this, I'm going to vote for that. Like, sir, this is what you get. And a lot of respect that some people have for you within your career phase or your field just has dwindled down. It just has dwindled down. You have to accept it. You have to accept it. If the NABJ doesn't mess with you, then I don't know, go to a different convention. They have plenty of conventions. That's it. At a certain point, they're honoring you. But guess what? They see where you're moving now. They're like, hey, why do we want to look up to this person when this person is supporting somebody who didn't even have the best for majority of what our mission is for, right? But I do think like a thumbs down award does bring some humor to a lot of like the important conversations that were had at that convention, right? We had the panel with Nolan Wells' family and Ben Crump. So it's like, okay, we went from talking about something very serious. Let's talk about something that is also serious, but let's still make like a little funny joke about it too as well, which makes sense, but still. The field of journalism is ever evolving, and it's interesting to see how that is going to play out as we enter into primaries and as we delve deeper into the 2020s, right? But my biggest advice for anybody who wants to delve into journalism or has like a podcast, a magazine, a Substack, or anything, know your core audience and stay loyal to your core audience, because in the end of it, when you go through a scandal, and I'm specifically talking to black people, specifically within the field of media and everything, just remember when you diversify that audience and you go through a scandal, majority of the time, guess what community you're going to be going back to, because they're going to support you. Think about that. Think about it. And I'm saying that and I'm emphasizing it because we've seen it too many times when somebody goes through a scandal and then that one audience they had that propelled them, they put them in the back burner. But then when that scandal comes in, they try to reel them back to that audience, and look what happens. That's all I got to say. Also, I just want to talk about like black journalists for a second, because this does have to do with like a prominent black journalist, but then also two black bloggers. You could still call them journalists as well too. Like Tasha K, girl, I might as well just call you a journalist. You're like a more of like a pop culture journalist, specifically in like Black Hollywood. And then you have Poetic Flacco, who came from like the No Jumper world and then entered and delved into like YouTube and everything. So let's talk about this. So there is a whole big situation regarding Roland Martin and some extortion rumors about a intimate video regarding Roland Martin. I'm not going to delve into it because I've watched the YouTube videos of the two said individuals explaining what happened. And all I gotta say is to Tasha K and Puerto Flacco, I know like they've moved on from it. You guys need to be careful. You guys need to be careful. You guys need to be careful when it comes to talking about certain situations regarding people's sexuality and whatever they do behind closed doors. So all I'm going to say is that they had described the video that had mentioned Roland being in a certain position and certain situations being done to him. Now, what I'm going to say is to the ladies and just in general, when it comes to overall that type of activity, right? When it comes to whatever you do behind closed doors, that's you. That has nothing to do with me. As long as it's consensual and legal, I ain't got no problem with what you do. Right? Okay, perfect. Now, another thing I gotta say is the men, they like to get their salads tossed. They do. I have to admit it, ladies. Let's be real. Their special spot is where. So it makes sense. There's a good chunk of them that likes to delve into that. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. I've had friends show me pictures of guys and they're like, he's so fine. And I'm like, okay, well, you better get ready to be strapped on because you're going to have to do a little something, right? Even when it came to the news about Boston Richie and what he liked to do, hey, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to judge you, but I am going to judge you for your relationship with that girl when she was like 16. That's what I'm going to judge you for. But still, a lot of the men like to get their salads tossed. As much as some people don't like to admit it, I know there's somebody listening to this podcast and you're like, oh no, no, girl, I know damn well when the lights go out, your mouth is on some, your mouth is doing some eating up the salad. So don't tell me anything. Now, when it comes to overall this situation with Roland Martin and this extortion situation, this is where I'm like, okay, Tasha K, you have already been sued by Cardi B. You keep adding on more karmic debt that is messing with not only your platform, but also your money. So I feel like for Tasha K, every single time she keeps doing it, she keeps fucking up her money. I think that is her karmic debt, is it's always gonna mess with her finances. And there needs to be something where she just needs to learn her lesson and just move on with it. And I feel like this year is the year of karma for just when it comes to like the blogging era, the drama space. I've noticed that a lot of the people who would report stories in a malicious way, they're getting their karma. But Tasha K, you had a chance to really get it together and you're still moving the same way. Eventually, what we see happening with some of these bloggers, I won't be surprised if it happens to her. Now, when it comes to Poetic Flacco, I heard there was like a situation where he allegedly had like a thing that almost leaked. I just feel like if you were kind of in a situation similar, but not really in the same tactics that you guys are saying about Roland, I would think you would have some empathy and be like, you know what, I'm not going to share this information, pass it along to somebody else instead, which you did. You passed the information to Tasha, and Tasha was the one who reported it, but then you came in and made a video talking about the whole situation. And I think it's kind of sus that you were describing certain situations, and then also you had mentioned the looks of that said person's private parts, which is crazy because, sir, why are you giving us all these descriptions, right? And another thing too is when it comes to overall this, we don't know Roland Martin's situation with his wife. That's between them. Personally, I say this again, that's between y'all and y'all partners, right? We don't know their agreement. We don't know their situation. We don't know at all. But one thing I can say for sure is don't be surprised when you guys get a cease and desist by that man. Don't be surprised if you guys end up getting sued, because even though you guys did not show the video of the situation, guess what? You guys basically gave people a whole description of that whole video, which people can imagine it on their heads and still have a visual descriptions within their mind. That's all I got to say about that. But like I said, it is interesting to see how certain things are playing out. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, the men like to get their salads tossed, and that is totally fine. That is totally fine. So, ladies, I just want to say it to you. Sometimes that man that you love you might have to use that strap on him sometimes. Okay, so I'm like looking through my docket, guys. We're gonna stop this episode at like an hour and 25 minutes because there is so many things I have to talk about, but I feel like I could still talk about them next week. Let's move on to something still regarding like physical activity, but I am gonna put a trigger warning right now. So please, if this topic may trigger you, I would say speed up a couple seconds or even like a minute or two just to get on to the next topic. So I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now let's chat about it. So if you haven't heard or you don't know who this person is, Love and Hip Hop star. Well, she's been on Love and Hip Hop. She's been on Baddies. She's been on multiple programs with the Zeus Network. She is well known for basically being the demise of Chingy's career. If you don't know who Chingy is, I'll be shocked, or I'll know your age. You might be Gen Z. But you know the song that goes, I like it when you're doing it right there, right there. Yep, that Chingy right there. So Sydney Starr is a big, I wouldn't say big. I would call her more of a, like, in general fame ranking, I would call her a Z-list celebrity. She is a trans woman. She was definitely one of the few trans women in the media, especially in like the 2010s. Like, yes, right now we do have trans women such as like Laverne Cox or even T.S. Madison, which are trailblazers. Even though Laverne, girl, I don't even want to talk about you and your MAGA man. But obviously, there are more prevalent faces within the media that are trans women, right? But Sydney Starr was around where she was mainly one of the faces in the reality TV space. Hence why I brought up Bad Girls Club, how she was also involved in, like, I guess a couple episodes of Zeus's Bad Boys, but also Baddies. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out. But she's actually been arrested, trigger warning, for the essay of a minor. Now, let's talk about this right now. And I think the most important thing is when it comes to the situation, she does not represent the whole community. This is just Sydney. So, because I noticed sometimes, and I've been reading a few things, how people talked about this news story, and I've noticed in comments, people were being transphobic. No, let's not take this situation that one person did onto that whole community. Let's not do that. Now, let me say this for sure. Sydney, girl, you're going to jail. You are going to jail, because I'm going to say this. When she got caught, a used condom came out of her pocket. A used condom came out of the pocket. And even when she was explaining to police, she stated that the young boy had consented. But anybody who follows the law or pays attention or actually knows the law, in the law, it says that a minor cannot consent, regardless what your consent laws are, right? And this happened in Georgia. Girl, you are going to prison. You are going to prison. Lock her ass up. And not only that, even for the fact that, like, how did this minor end up in this hotel? Like, you know what I mean? There's other stories I want to hear about this also too, is because then I also have to blame your parents. How are you in a hotel with an adult, right? That's another thing too. So it's like, please protect these children. Please protect these children. But Sydney, you're going to jail, girl. You're going to jail. And a lot of people are trying to make excuses like, oh, well, she has like an alleged substance issue. I don't care if you have that situation. Even if you were high as hell, you still did the action. Allegedly, you still did it. You even admitted to police that you said the person consented. Like, girl, bye. Goodbye. It's just justice for the victim. That's all I could say. Justice for the victim. This happened in Georgia. I know they got some crazy laws, so we're going to see how that plays out. A lot of people are like, oh, are they going to put her in an all-women's prison? Or are they going to put her in a male facility? We'll just have to see, especially with a state like Georgia. I don't know when it comes to their laws. Like, if she was more in, like, I'd say Colorado or New York or California, they probably would put her in a women's facility. But with the way Georgia has been voting, girl, I don't know. I don't know. Either way I can say is justice for the victims. And then also, I think this is her karma. This is her karma. And I just want to bring this all together. A lot of people who were trying to chase fame in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and kind of use other people's careers as in bashing them or just like spreading outrageous rumors are getting their karma. And this is Sydney's karma, because guess what? The minute this story dropped, everyone was like, oh, everything that Chingy talked about was real. And guess what? His streams are going up again. So that's what I can say for sure when it comes to that. It's sad because he lost his career, essentially. And it kind of led to him not even want to engage with fan photos just because of that situation with Sydney Starr. So yeah, she's getting her karma. The only things her karma is, you caused this man to lose his career. Now guess what? You're losing your chances of basically living the rest of your life. So instead of you being free and out there and doing your thing, you're going to be locked up in a cell. Since I did mention the aspect of like some people within the media, but just overall in general, getting their karma for stuff that they've done in like the late 2000s and the early 2010s, let's talk about Perez Hilton. If you don't know who Perez Hilton is, I'm either going to guess you're not really a pop culture fanatic, or you just don't know the evolution of like the gossip pages and everything like that, right? Perez Hilton was basically Wendy Williams, but for white people. That's what Perez Hilton was. Perez Hilton had a big website where every single day he would basically spill the tea about either if it was Paris Hilton, Misha Barton, some of the girls from the Hills, who else? Freaking Ireland Baldwin, Haley Baldwin's cousin, also Alec Baldwin's daughter. Anyone who was prevalent within white media, just know Perez Hilton was talking about them. And not only that, he was also talking about their children too. But also too, in addition to it, because I used to go on Perez Hilton's website when I was like, 10 years old, 11 years old. That's how you really know I'm about that pop culture shit. And some of the stuff that he was saying was just disgusting and disturbing for the way that he looked like too at that time too. He was fat shaming these women. He was basically outing those in the industry, regardless if it was outing a man or outing a woman. He was doing so much to the point where he would take pictures of people or like have their paparazzi photos and then put like imagery of ejaculation on their faces and everything like that, which is crazy for the fact he got away with it. But that propelled him so much to the point where he was hosting Bad Girl Club reunions. He was going on talk shows talking about the latest gossip and tea, but he was causing a lot of pain in these people's lives. Another person he used to talk about a lot was Hayden Panettiere. Rest in peace to her. We'll talk about that in a second. But I don't know if you guys know, after that, where he started making a lot of money, it started to dwindle down, right? You started seeing the rise of platforms like The Shade Room, Hollywood Unlocked, Baller Alert. Although Baller Alert and Boss Up were around, or even like Media Takeout, right? Media Takeout was around, but it didn't get like the push that like a Perez Hilton's website got. But as those platforms started building, Perez started dwindling down, right? We also had media figures like Tasha K, Storm Monroe, even with the Armand Wiggins, like a lot of those people started having platforms on YouTube, which Perez didn't go on YouTube just because he already had the relevancy and everything else. But as we transition of not shaming celebrities for their bodies, which people still get shamed for this day, but as society changed in the aspect of body positivity, but then also consciousness, he started to dwindle down, right? He lived a lavish life in LA. Then guess what? He had to move to where? Vegas. And even at that time, when I was doing PR for a fast food brand, I can't say which one. Well, I've talked about it before, but he actually got to try out the food and everything like that. He's gotten surgery and everything. We just didn't even interact with him just because when he like tried out the meal, I guess he tagged the brand and thought he's going to get some PR from it. And it was just like, sir, you are in too much drama and getting involved with certain things to the point where we just can't reach out to you. Well, recently he popped on TikTok live and was seen. And I'm going to give you guys a trigger warning again. I'm going to give you a trigger warning. For the people who saw the video, it's still traumatizing. I had to watch the video because obviously I report the news. It's an imagery of Perez, butt naked, nothing on, covered in his own blood, face all over. And you can hear in his voice, he has a sharp item, a knife in his hand. And he's basically like, the way he was doing it, he was basically slicing his body. But the way you could tell, it kind of felt like for him, it was like euphoric for him. It felt like good. But like he just kept doing it in a way where it's like, it kind of like, look, I kind of turned him on. But although we know that he was either going through like a manic breakdown. And you could see people in his TikTok live trying to stop him and hoping that like his family members or anybody would hop in. But when I tell you, it was crazy to see that, you guys. I'm not gonna lie, I saw it twice. So the first time it was, I just heard the audio, but it was a filter blocking it so you couldn't see. I was more creeped out by hearing the audio. I was already afraid. But then when I saw the visual, I was like, okay, this looks like something you would see in a scary movie. That's how bad it was. I don't recommend anybody to watch that video. Just because when you see it, if you're somebody who can't handle seeing certain things, you are going to be traumatized. And really, for that, it's the fact that Perez Hilton had to move from Vegas to Miami just to give his family a better life, because he does have children through surrogacy and he has his mother and his siblings, just to really re-up his money. Because let's not forget too, Perez was making so much money to the point where if you're adjusted to a certain lifestyle, or like you're just adjusted to it, you're gonna want to maintain it, right? Which is why I always say the importance of living below your means, because you just never know when it comes to finances, right? We sometimes will have a good season, sometimes you'll have a bad season. This is why I tell people, when you have a peak, collect all that bread, and that main hustle that used to be a side hustle, you got to find another side hustle to still further build that not me saying generational wealth, but to further build that revenue. You know what I mean? But still, a lot of people, when it came to this news about Perez, they felt bad, and some people didn't, right? When it comes to this situation for me with Perez Hilton, I still have to say is, and I watch it even with like the situation he's going through, because let's not forget too, he's had surgery, he's had like certain things regarding his health. He has health bills just stacking up, and even with this situation with him in the TikTok live, and they basically said that he had an over almost like OD'd. Guess what? That's another health bill that's about to add on. Those hospital bills, they're not cheap. Let's be real. Those hospital bills are not cheap. We don't know his insurance situation. So that just keeps adding on more. So that's the stress of, dang, you're taking care of your kids. You got to make sure that the Hermes bags and everything is good. You got to start doing things. I think the most important thing what his family needs to start doing is start selling some of the things that he's acquired within his pop culture era, because the 2000s are coming back. So that's what I can say for sure. Now, when it comes to this whole situation, do I think he's getting his karma? I do think to a certain extent this is like some spiritual warfare, right? I always talk about the fact that when we delve into like, let's talk about the commentary space specifically. When we delve into the commentary space, we say things, and sometimes those things hurt people, right? But then also too is we deal with the aspect of the pain we put on to others eventually comes to us somehow, some way, right? I could say the same thing. We're seeing that even with Charlemagne. Charlemagne built his career specifically off of, putting people through stress or saying things that just cause people to go through it. And we're kind of seeing the transition of people not really messing with him like that, right? So even when it comes to like Perez Hilton, you body shame people. You basically were talking about people's kids. And now you're at the point where people not only saw your body, but they're body shaming you. And now we're at the aspect too is your health is dwindling down. This is why I always say karma comes in many different ways, right? It might fuck up your money. It might fuck up your health. It might just fuck up your whole life. This is why I always say be mindful what you say. That's why for me, when it comes to talking on this podcast, I'm at the point where I'm not afraid to come back on here and say I made a mistake or retract my statement or apologize about something I've said, right? This is what I can say. A lot of the shock jocks, they're getting their ish somehow, some way, which is why I always say be mindful what you say, because there are other people's emotions in the situation, but still stand on your argument, but keep it cordial. That's what I can say. Even when it comes to like the Wendy situation, a lot of people are saying, oh, Wendy's getting her karma. Yes, to a certain extent, yes, financially and also the pain. But then again, too, when it comes to like the aspect of substance abuse, Wendy has talked about she's been going through situations with substance abuse a long time ago. And then even with her being on the conservatorship, yes, the conservatorship is just as bad, but still we see what caused her to get into that situation. But still, shout out to Wendy Williams. That's still the GOAT. But just in general, a lot of the people that cause pain onto others, regardless if it's pain through words or physically, they are getting their karma. Somehow, some way, you reap what you sow. Now, let's talk about Hayden Panettiere and her passing. First thing first is rest in peace to Hayden Panettiere. Hayden Panettiere recently passed away at the age of 36. I think for a lot of us like Zillennials, mid-millennials, late millennials, or even a little bit of the early millennials, remember Hayden Panettiere on shows such as Nashville, Heroes. For some of us, seeing her have that dance battle with Solange on Bring It On, right? Okay. Funny thing is, Hayden Panettiere is actually from my town. So Hayden Panettiere is from the Palisades. I don't live far from Palisades. If you're from Rockland County, you know where that is, right? Okay. So when they shot Ice Princesses and she had to practice for skating, where did she skate at? Everyone knows this if you're from Rockland. the skating rink at the Palisades Mall on the 4th floor, right on top of Macy's. So she is from the town, but I think when it comes to this whole situation, it's so sad because she just recently came out with a book exposing a lot of what she experienced as a child star or growing up within the media. She talked about how the fact that her mom immediately got her into modeling and then transitioned her into being on TV, and how she just wanted to really live a regular life, because they do talk about how sometimes too the pivot from being a child star to an adult star is very difficult, which we've seen that with her for a certain extent. But then also she talked about her situations regarding DV in a relationship, the fact that she had to basically give her daughter's rights away to her ex-husband, and we know that her ex-husband also is fighting the war in Ukraine. You guys, that's a lot. And even with the fact that, and I think who's mentioned this, Storm Monroe always said, like, and he said this recently, you gotta be mindful of the people with mommy issues. Be mindful, even if it's a woman too. If they got issues with their mom, pay attention to that too, because we talk about the men, but pay attention with the women too. But when it comes to her situation, especially with that, right, she experienced so many things where she had a daughter, and it's like, dang, you don't want the same things you went through, regardless of what gender your child is, that you went through to go through your child, especially when you're in the limelight, right? We're hearing about the fact that Hayden's been in situations where she almost had to engage in a certain situation with a popular artist. And a lot of people are saying it's this specific artist from the UK, but I'm not going to say some names. But even with that, or even with the fact that her mom basically wasn't really protecting her in these situations, right? You know how, like, you have the parent that wanted to chase a dream, but instead they put that dream on their child when that child simply did not have the choice to, if they even wanted to delve in that phase or that career. I think that's that situation. But then also it makes me think about Drew Barrymore and how she talked about, like, she was partying with adults damn near when she was freaking 13. Or even like Brooke Shields when she was young, although, yeah, like Storm had mentioned, she's tall as hell and everything, but she was still young around these older folks. So it's like, what was going on? And she exposed that. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it's conspiracy, it's conspiracy. They try to get her. Yes, the conspiracy side of me is thinking, dang, this could have been something. But then also, too, is they're announcing that she OD'd. But then as well, too, her ex-boyfriend, who she had broken up with and everything, he basically did some stuff to her regarding harming her. But she had mentioned that even her character in Nashville, she said she related to it so much because she was going through postpartum. She was dealing with a lot of things. That's why she was so good at acting as that character, because she was living that life. She talked a lot about how the way she would heal from certain things was what? Grabbing a bottle. It's gonna be interesting to see as they like further delve into like the causing of her passing, which we know is like an OD, but like other things she was experiencing or going through before her death, right? Because let's not forget, the last interview she really did was an interview with Jay Shetty. I don't know, Jay Shetty, whenever I see Jay Shetty and I look into his eyes, there's something off about that man. But you know what? Let's move on from that. Let's move on from that. But I can say for sure, when overall, rest in peace to her, wishing the best for her daughter. I think as well, I had to watch an interview that TMZ did with her ex-boyfriend. And even with him, his words were slurring. You could tell he was high as a fucking kite. So all I can say is a lot of the things that not only she spoke about, you got to go read that book. I think that's the most important thing. Go read that book so you can truly know what that girl was going through. And she needed somebody there to protect her. And her parents were not looking out for her, which is why I think it's the importance of, if you decide to have your child get into the industry, previous documentaries, even the one regarding like the Nick Stars, really showed us the importance of like protecting child actors, but just protecting like children in general, right? Because guess what? They end up becoming the adults. And if there's not something where something's being regulated, it's just gonna be an ever repeating cycle. That's what it's gonna be. But rest in peace to Hayden Panettiere. Now let's move on to like business news. We're just gonna end the episode with business news right now. Okay, well, I don't know if you guys know, especially if you are into sports, so they're saying that former Disney CEO Bob Iger and Jared Kushner's brother, older brother, and major investor are in the works of buying the LA Lakers. So it's going to be interesting where everyone's hand is getting in the pot. And I think even when it comes to this whole situation with the Lakers being sold, what's going to happen once this team gets bought? Bob Iger is eager and excited to see what they can do with the franchise. I know that the Lakers is a family-owned business, and I think they're still trying to halt the selling. But one thing I just want to say, because this involves Jared Kushner's brother, Carly Close does not ever get called out for being involved with the Kushners. My thing is, even when it comes to this, has Taylor Swift been around like Carly Close? Because then again too, we know where Taylor stands when it comes to like the political field and everything like that. That's another thing I got to think about as well. But has Carly Close really booked a gig ever since she's been with Josh Kushner? Like, yeah, he's a billionaire and everything like that, but still, we've seen what the Kushners have done to this country. And then even with the fact that Jared is trying to buy up every corporation he can. I don't know if you guys know. Now let's delve into video game news. EA, Electronic Arts, they own The Sims. Even some of your favorite games that people like to play, right? They got bought out by Saudi Arabia, and then also with Jared Kushner's investment group. So that means, guess what? EA is now private. That affects not only The Sims, that affects a lot of your like sports games, like the EA Sports. It's in the game. Any game that has EA Sports, it's in the game, is affected by this. Now, a lot of people are trying to figure out, is this going to mess with the game? I don't know, right? We don't know what it's going to be like, but I can say for sure, if you're somebody who goes and supports a brand based on its ethics and its morals, I think it's best to start pulling away your pockets right now, right? Because it looks like this is where it's delving into. Instead of supporting games that have Electronic Arts that are involved, you might have to go and support something with Rockstar Games, right? And I'm saying this because I had almost gotten a job at Rockstar Games, but we'll talk about that another time. But, go support some GTA instead. You can still roleplay on GTA. Or even if you're like a Sims girl like myself, go play Paralives or Enzoy. Because the fact that the people who are involved and bought the company, don't be surprised once they have layoffs, right? Don't be surprised where we hear about certain situations where certain people not given opportunities to move on up at Electronic Arts, or if eventually there's switches within the gameplay. It could eventually be that, but we just never know. All we know is right now, EA is now private. It's not public anymore when it comes to like its sector and entities and all that jazz. But it's going to be interesting to see how these things play out. But I can say The Sims, you guys were the head top when it comes to these simulation games. And a lot of the competition had popped up because a lot of people have been falling for Paralives. Paralives has been in the making for like the past like 15, 12 years, which I've noticed a lot of things that if you had a project that's been around for like 10 years, like once it hits that 10 number, I've noticed that people are starting to now get the notoriety and also starting to see the fruits of their labor. So this is why I always say the importance of not giving up on yourself. But yeah, the Kushners, they're trying to own everything. They're trying to own every conglomerate or every situation, which is why I'm thinking this man got in office to really help his friends out to go buy these things. And then bringing that as well too, they're actually putting a halt on the buyout for Paramount and Warner Brothers. So if you work at Warner Brothers, if you work at a CNN, a Discovery Plus own network, because anything that Discovery Plus owns, it's also a conglomerate as well, right? Like HGTV, they're owned by Discovery. OWN is another one, the Oprah network, right? Even when it comes to like networks such as TLC. So as this deal is on a halt, I think anybody who's working at the subsidiaries, but then also the multiple brands owned by Warner Brothers, I think it's best to pull back. Even HBO is owned by Warner Brothers. So that's another thing to think about as well too. So if Paramount buys this, you have the Ellis brothers who are very much connected with the president. And then you have CBS News where you have that lady who don't know what the heck she's doing. So all I could say is that start looking. And once this buyout happens, and I love my TLC, I love watching some of these shows, I might have to just get away from it. I'm serious. And I can say this for sure. if this buyout does happen, a lot of people are going to be getting laid off. A lot of people are going to, and it's going to be interesting to see how things play out, which is, I think, is why it's important we have these primaries and people go out and vote, because honestly, with the way the media is switching up, it's interesting to see how, like, what is going to trend when it comes to reality TV and what's not going to be around, because people are fed up and tired and people want some authenticity. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's something I felt like I needed to say. And just one last thing, because I mentioned the fact that these companies are getting bought out by this administration or people involved with this administration. Think about the past 2 years, and has it been beneficial since this man has been in office for you? Okay? Has it been beneficial for you? If it hasn't, then you know what to do when you go and vote. That's what I got to say when it comes to that. Now, I still got to bring up another person. FIFA. Once again, the Kushners, they want to buy up everything. And it's the fact that they were trying to sell a stake of the World Cup to the Kushners. And this is where fans of soccer and FIFA straight up said, hey, if you guys sell this stake, we are not supporting this. And I don't blame them. This World Cup was like, yes, it was great to see unity, but I feel like when it came to this World Cup, it was more entertaining to see the fans interact with each other rather than seeing the players interact with each other. And that says a lot. So if you guys are planning to sell a stake, which I can't trust that man who's like the head commissioner, you just can't trust him. You can't. You saw him basically giving Trump the award, giving him a Nobel Peace Prize and everything. It's like you're trying to kiss ass, but it's like, hello, the next World Cup is not even going to be in America. It's going to be in Europe. Are you going to be on the Buddhas of these European leaders? Buddha means asses. But are you going to be on their asses when it's time to take it to Spain, Morocco, and all these other places? I know Morocco's in Africa, but still. Are you going to be on their asses? Let's make it make sense, please. Let's make it make sense. And how are you going to have like an international like franchise that has cultures of flavor, and then you are going to try to get the most flavorless people involved? That's crazy. Now, let me move to one last person who I think is a little flavorless too. Selena Gomez, come over here, girl. Selena Gomez, come over here, mommy, because you are part Mexican. Come over here, mommy. Come over here. Come over here. Come here, Hermana Prima. Come over here, girl. You and your mom are getting accused of fraud by investors for a mental health platform that basically was a startup that they started called Wondermind. So basically, Selena was saying that she will be using her likeness basically to do the marketing efforts and everything like that. And then everything else would be handled by other people. So they had investors involved, right? So you have Selena Gomez, who has Rare Beauty, which is, I could say it's up there with a Fenty Beauty. Personally, for me, I gravitate more Fenty. Like I said, when it comes to Selena Gomez, I ain't forget what you said when the whole BLM situation. And I can't trust a bitch that took a kidney from somebody and is not friends with that person no more. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. I can't trust you. Now, when it comes to this, it's the fact that her and her mom are basically getting accused of fraud. And it's like, okay, so you guys went to investors and you guys basically let things fall through the cracks. I just think to the point is, what other promises were you guys making to those investors, right? Who was the people leading it? Because when you have a business and let's say, for example, you are a startup and you have an app, right? I will say this though, for people who are listening to this, if you're looking for a job, work at a startup. It's going to be stressful, but the bank is going to be a lot because there'll be a lot of investors and people don't really know if it's really going to be successful. But I'd say if you're trying to like recruit those funds, grab a startup, and then even to you get some equity too. Think about the people who just like started working at Uber when it first started and look at them today. So I'm just saying, go with a startup. You get some equity. Now, when it comes to just Selena in general, I really would like to know what was the presentation? What were you guys telling? Who are the other people involved? Because you are the public figure. So yes, Selena's mom has some relevancy too, because she was on the cover with Beyonce's mom and some other like talented mothers who have children within the industry that are name makers, right? Even like Travis Kelce's mother was on the cover too. Now, it's the fact that you are the public figure in the equation. Guess what? If this falls on and you said you were going to use your reputation, your likeness to advertise Wondermine, well, guess what? It was never used because I didn't hear anything about Wondermine. I heard too much about Rare Beauty and everything, even with that newest campaign that you guys did. Actually, my friend from college is on that campaign picture. Shout out to her, Nika, beautiful girl. But still, you were so focused on this Rare Beauty situation to the point where you forgot about Wondermine. People are putting their money in and trying to see how the startup's going to go because you talked about mental health issues. You've been an advocate for those situations. And guess what? Where's the app? We're putting our money in, but we're not getting any proof in return. So yeah, they should be suing them. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Is there going to be jail time? Because, when you're dealing with fraud, you could possibly do some time. Now, my thing is, Selena's mom, if somebody got to do some jail time, are you going to take the case for your daughter? She's the breadwinner in the situation. You make some bread too, but she really is the head breadwinner. Are you going to take the case for your daughter? Because I know some moms that will take the case for their child. Will you do it? But yeah, you guys, you know what? Let me just say this. Let me end this episode right here. If you were in a situation like Selena Gomez and you were Selena Gomez's mother, would you take the case for Selena? Let me know this, okay? You guys, I'm going to end this episode right here. Love you guys. I know there's so many other topics I do have to talk about. I'll talk about it in the next episode. But love yourself, respect yourself, and just know you're worthy of so many amazing things. And I believe in you, okay? So you can find this podcast at Spotify, Google Play, Apple, wherever you found this podcast. We got to follow it. Rate it, please. Give a girl a rating. Oh, you can find us on YouTube too, but give it a rating. Subscribe on YouTube. We have a lot of things popping off for this show, so just know we're gonna have some couple changes. I say it all the time, but there's a lot of changes about to be implemented. So yes, we will be having video content coming up soon too. So get ready to see my face. Oh Lord. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at It's Wista, ITSWISTA. You can follow the podcast at Where's It Wista. You can follow me on Substack. I do write articles on there as well. If you have any topics you want me to talk about, constructive criticism, whatever, just DM me at It's Wista or even email me. It should be able to email me because the email's pretty easy to guess. But you guys, I'm going to go and bye. Mwah.